Hello and welcome back to another video. I hope you had an amazing holiday. If you celebrate a holiday this week, I know it was Christmas and we have the first night of Hanukkah. And if you don't celebrate any of those, I hope you just had a wonderful Wednesday. So I am so excited now to talk about my favorite books of 2024. And this was hard. I had a really good year as far as like what I was choosing to read. I love this thing. Again, I know I just keep talking about this app, Fable, but it's just got so many more cool features than like Goodreads, which is what I have, always used for like keeping track of stats and stuff. But my average rating for like books overall this year is a 4. And so I just thought that was crazy. Like, there's, definitely been ones that I had a tough time with, but for the most part, I've liked a lot of stuff. It doesn't show me exactly on this little graph, but it does say that like over 50 books I've given 5 stars to. You can kind of see it here perhaps, and so you can see how like that bar graph almost like is definitely like this, and the high side is the higher ratings. So I think that's pretty awesome. So again, this was really hard, and you've already heard about a lot of these, but I'm so excited to put them all in one place for you, and hopefully you will find something you haven't heard of and give it a shot. So just like my previous video where I talked about the books I liked the least in 2024, I have 5 honorable mentions of books that I really loved, but they just, had missing some little thing that these other top 5 really had. So let's go over those first. So a couple of these were ones I read really long time ago. So we have The Displacements by Bruce Holsinger. Really, really enjoyed this. It's about a family who is evacuating a hurricane and kind of realizing what it's like to live without. Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth, and this is about 3 foster sisters who have grown up and being brought back together because of a past trauma coming to light. The Sing Sing Files by Dan Slepian, which is a nonfiction book about men who are serving life sentences and are innocent of the crimes they are imprisoned for. One of Our Kind by Nicola Yoon, which is about a Black family who moves into an all-Black community, but things are not really what they seem. This one definitely leads towards social horror. And of course, I have to go with You Like It Darker by Stephen King. This is a book of short stories. Some of them are kind of referencing some of his previous works, but all of them were really good stories. I did do an entire review when it first came out, which I will link for you if you are interested in learning more about that book. So I didn't really have an order going when I did my worst video of 2024, but I am gonna put these in order. So starting with number 5 is one that might come as a little bit of a surprise, and that is The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. And the reason I'm saying this comes as a surprise is because I'm really not a romance reader, and it's kind of weird for this to be one of my top 5 books of the entire year. But this book just brought me so much joy. It was so funny, so cute. So this is about a man named Liam and a woman named Anna, and back when they were in college, they ended up getting married as a way to kind of like get free student housing, I think it was, or really like lower rates for housing. They really didn't know each other, but Liam's brother was like very close friends with Anna, and so they just kind of like made this work. So 5 years later, they can finally file for divorce without raising suspicion, basically. But in the meantime, Liam has been lying to his family this whole time that they, actually are married, and that he has this wife named Anna, and she's a doctor, and she's very much not a doctor in real life. And they're basically like, you need to bring her to your little sister's wedding. And so he is like, okay, listen, I'll sign the divorce papers, but first you need to come to this wedding somewhere in like the South Pacific that's vacation destination, and his family's very, very wealthy. So yeah, it's such a cute book. It's so funny, and I just loved their romance. I don't know, I feel like a lot of like romances can be kind of just over the top cheesy, and that's something I have trouble with when I'm reading them. And this just had cheese in all the right places, and it was very like self-aware, I guess, of its rom-comness. So yeah, this is one that I loved so much. Number 4 is Rainbow Black by Maggie Thrash. So this is a book that I did not expect to love. I got it from a publisher. Thank you so much to Harper Perennial. But I got it from the publisher. I don't remember requesting it, but I was like, okay, let's give it a shot. It looks interesting. And I just could not believe how invested in this I was. It's got very short chapters, which, as we all know, really helps with the whole getting invested in a book thing. But anyways, this book starts out in 1990, and we're following a girl named Lacey. Now, she's about 13, 14, I think, and her parents run a daycare in New Hampshire. They're very, like, hippy-dippy. This is when the satanic panic kind of, like, hits the nation, and the parents end up being arrested for, like, horrific crimes regarding these kids, and Lacey is kind of just, like, left on her own. So something really, really big happens, and she ends up going on the run with her best friend. And so then we fast forward to, like, present day, and, you know, this horrific event kind of comes back to haunt her, and I just loved it. It was so, like, beautiful, the story in it. There's a really sweet, like, queer love story going on. I don't think I would call this horror, but it's, you know, got some horrific elements. It's definitely, like, thrilling, though. And I really loved it. I sped through it. I could not put it down. And I don't think I've heard a whole lot of hype about it. So I hope that maybe this can help bring some hype to it. It was just wonderful. My number 3 book of 2024 is one I sadly don't have a physical copy of, but that is This Time Tomorrow by Emma Straub. So this is not a new book. This one has been out for a few years, and I ended up picking this up because I felt connected to the storyline. So this is about a woman named Alice who is about to turn 40, and her life is fine. You know, she's not having, like, the best time of her life, but she's fine. Her father is in a lot of physical pain. He is ill, and he's, you know, getting old, and she's the one, you know, who's, like, needing to go take care of him. And, you know, she, of course, ends up with some regrets on their relationship because of just being, you know, a young person and making some bad choices or just not thoughtful choices. Anyways, on her 40th birthday, she wakes up in her old bed, and she's 16. And her dad is, like, his young, like, 40-year-old self. And so she, you know, is faced with this moment where she can kind of, like, go back and do things differently and make sure she's spending, like, the time with him. And instead of, like, you know, going off and, like, chasing boys and, you know, just wanting to go to parties, like, trying to use what she knows of the future and make her present, you know, a little bit more focused on what's truly important. And I don't know, this book just, like, completely spoke to me given my situation with my dad this year, and just, like, you know, feeling seen on, like, how I wish that, you know, I too could go back and do a couple things differently and maybe make more things related to my dad a priority as opposed to just focusing on, you know, myself. And I know we could all go into this forever based on, you know, just, like, regrets, and it's always easier to see when you're moved past a situation. But, you know, I felt like this was a book that was just, like, written for me. And I actually reached out to the author afterwards because I wanted to share that this meant so much to me. The author actually had written this a little bit, I think, after her father died, who was also an author, Peter Straub. But I felt so connected to her, and she wrote back such a sweet message to me saying, like, it was written for you. And yeah, so, like, this is obviously a very emotional pick for me, and I don't know, it really helped me in a hard time, and just, it meant so much to me. Okay, so choosing what was going to be my first and second book was so hard. I already told you that making this list to begin with was pretty hard because I had such a great year, but these two were particularly difficult. So the next one that's number 2 is number 2, but not by very much, and that is James by Percival Everett. This book has been everywhere. It's won so many awards. It's been on, like, everyone's, like, best of 2024 list. So this is certainly something I'm sure you've already heard about. It's pretty much a reimagining of Huckleberry Finn through the eyes of Jim, who prefers to be called James, hence the name of the book. And I mean, that's kind of all you need to know. It certainly takes its own like liberties with the story. You really don't need to know anything about the story to go into this. Like, you really don't. It was just a really interesting look at this classic story, and from a different angle. I feel like even now, if you're like in an American literature class or just reading Huck Finn for fun, you still like see characters through the lens of the author almost a little bit. I don't know if that makes sense, but like you might be able to see like in historically like, oh yeah, no, that's ick, that's cringe, that's uncomfortable. But I loved getting this perspective and seeing the things that like the author wanted us to see from actually someone else's point of view. I don't know if that made any sense. It made sense in my own head. Hopefully someone understands what I'm saying. And yeah, I don't feel like I need to explain too much about this one. It was just really good. You don't have to know anything. You don't have to like Huck Finn, really. I mean, maybe a little bit, I guess, would help, but it's just so well written, and the take on this story is just perfect. And my very favorite book of 2024, and I did speak about this recently on another one of my lists, and that is I Hope This Finds You Well by Natalie Sue. Definitely would not have thought this would end up on this list when I first saw the cover or anything, because this book had so much entertainment value. It had so much heart. I loved it. I'm obsessed with this. I would tell everyone I know to read this. So this is about a character named Jolene. She is doing okay in life. She's kind of grumpy. She's just kind of like existing. She works in an office, like corporate side of like a supermarket chain. And something she does to kind of like let off some steam is when she's writing emails to people in her office, underneath like her signature, she will write to them what she really wants to say, but like in white text, so they won't really like see it. It is still kind of risky because I feel like it would be kind of easy to be found out. But anyways, up until this point, she had never been found out. Well, guess what? She does get found out. So she ends up being sent to like HR, like sensitivity training with this new HR guy who's very cute and charming. And she gets these restrictions put on her email. But IT messes up when they are putting these restrictions on her email, and she accidentally gets access to everyone's accounts. So she can write emails to other people, she can read everybody's emails, like, so she's like, okay, I'm going to use this to get ahead because they have announced that there will be layoffs at her job. So, you know, she is not interested in being one of those people. So she's like, I can use this to my advantage. She's not super well liked at work. People think she's kind of like grumpy and just kind of boring. And so, you know, this is really something that she thinks can help her. But of course, it kind of gets out of control. And I loved it. Like I said, it was actually funny. Like, I laughed out loud. There is a really, really sweet romance in here, and it just felt believable, and the characters were, you know, believable as real people. Yeah. This hasn't been enough places. I've just kind of started to see it a little bit more, like in bookstores and stuff, but yeah, this was amazing. I feel like this would appeal to the same kind of people who like Kevin Wilson's books, or like Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. If you liked those books, I definitely think this is one you should give a shot. And also, if you have never read those books, you should still give it a shot. All right, guys, we still have a week left of the year, so you never know. Perhaps there will be another one that I like more, but I'll make sure to let you guys know. But with 1 week to go of 2024, these are my top 5 books. I want to know if you've read any of these and if you share any opinions with me. If not, I want to know what your favorite book of 2024 was, and if you are planning to read a few more before the end of the year. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, I would love it if you would, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!